Hello and welcome to the Awareness Podcast, offered to you by the Center for Awakening, where practical teachings meet everyday life. Each week, you'll find simple practices rooted in non-dual teachings, inviting you to rest as awareness itself and discover the peace that's already here. I'm Jody Agard, and I'm so grateful you're joining me today. Before we begin, a quick invitation from the Center for Awakening. Every moment of life reflects a deeper choice, love or fear. In his new 2-part live series, Love or Fear, the choice is yours. Oliver Blue guides a powerful exploration into the 2 root perceptions that shape all experience. You'll begin to recognize fear as a learned pattern, not who you are, and discover how to meet life with greater clarity, peace, and freedom. Because beneath every struggle, every story, and every moment of contraction, love has been present all along. The choice is simple. The experience is infinite. His series starts on June 22nd, and you'll find the details and registration in the show notes. Hello and welcome to the Awareness Podcast. I'm really happy that you're here with us today. And I'm especially happy to be joined by Mr. Oliver Blue. Oliver, welcome.
Well, hello, Jody, and thank you for the invite. And I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be in
Yeah.
your presence. I told you
No.
earlier, I said you have such a calming nature about you, and if you've never been told that before, but that's the impact you have on me, and I'm sure on several people. So it's always a delight to be in your presence. Yes.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot. So, for those who may be meeting Oliver for the first time, Oliver is a spiritual teacher whose work really just points directly to what's already here beneath the noise and beneath the struggle and the separation. In his upcoming series, it's actually a 2-part series coming up on June 22nd with the Center for Awakening. He explores what may be one of the most, I think, one of the simplest and most yet profound recognitions that we can make. It's that every experience in life is filtered through one of 2 root perceptions, and either love or fear. And Oliver, when I first read the description, something in me really resonated because it feels like so much of our spiritual journey is spent trying to solve the uh, the content of our lives, our circumstances and the conditions and the relationships and the health and the finances and just all the things that seem to be happening. Yet what you're pointing to feels much deeper than that. It really feels like you're inviting us to look at the lens through which we're experiencing life itself. So I'd really love just to start there. When you speak about love and fear as the 2 root perceptions, can you go into what exactly do you mean by that?
Wow. Well, um, the short version is that all of this really came out of my own journey. I can remember uh, 20, 30 years ago when I was in a state of, I would say, fear. I would not have described it at the time, but there was a time in my life where, uh, I came out of a religious practice where um, the theology was kind of fear based, right? And my understanding of the divine, my understanding of God, was somewhat distorted by my conditioning, what I've been taught, and you know I had a perception that God was an unloving father, which sounds very uh, um, duplicitous. That a father from a natural standpoint, generally symbolizes someone that is caring and gentle and always protecting. However, this this conditioning that I had from a very small um, upbringing was that, again, my understanding of the divine was more from a fear-based perspective, and that carried and impacted me all the way until my early 20s, when I came to a point in my life where I realized that, the fear was really um, consuming, not only my feelings, my emotions, but my decisions. And it put me in a state of confusion. But it was out of that I began to search and seek and really discover, especially back in 2005 when I became introduced to A Course in Miracles, that it was through that experience that I had my theology rewired and my understanding somewhat corrected. And I now, through that experience, that was the beginning of me understanding that um, fear was my experience because that was my conditioning. Fear was my experience because that was my belief. My conditioning became my belief, became a part of my subconscious mind to the point where I wasn't even aware that I was operating out of fear. And so so through my um, discovering A Course in Miracles, I come to realize that I was only experiencing um, fear, and I was only um, being controlled by it because that was my perception, that was my understanding, and so um, that was my breakout from from fear to love, if you might say. And then I discovered that um, through A Course in Miracles that there's a reality and then there's an unreality, and um, and that love and fear basically are one is real and one is not. One is what is always present, and one is what we actually created ourselves. And out of that, I began to reverse my perception, reverse the way I was thinking, which impacted, the way I began to operate, and over a period of maybe 10, 15 years before I became part of Center for Awakening and meeting Bill Free and Lisa Natoli, um, I spent that time actually in a self-study with the course, and then back in like 2018, I became a part of this community, and out of that, through Lisa's mentoring, I began to actually teach from not only my experience, but teach the truths that I found in the course and in other non-dual writings and teachings, and so now my understanding, right, is totally shifted to where I understand that love is my nature, love is all there is, and any residual effects from my upbringing and my mentoring and my you know being conditioned to think that fear was real. I know how now to stand above that and really um, dissolve the fear, um, in the sense that knowing that it's not real, it was all made up. We made it up, and if we the one that made it up, we're the only ones that can really dissolve it in our own personal experience. And so, love and fear, really, like the course said, there's only two state of perception. One is love and one is fear. But one is real and one is not. And then it comes down to a matter of what we embody and what we experience will be based on our choice. And thank God for the freedom of choice.
Mm, yeah. I think what you're speaking to too is so, I mean, if you just con we're just so conditioned, whether it's in the realm of religion or anywhere. We do. It's such a conditioned response. Yeah, and I see that you're just really helping people recognize that fear is just that. It's just a conditioned response, that unreality, rather than who they truly are. And I think that's important because so many people, especially right now, identify with anxiety and self-doubt and guilt and judgment and worry. And so how does how would someone begin to recognize the difference between it? Because it sounds like you kind of alluded to it when you were speaking, the difference between experiencing fear and identifying as fearful, and not letting that fear grip you, and remembering the truth. So how would someone recognize the difference and really turn away or choose differently?
Yeah. Well, uh, the way that I have overcome fear in my life is to, number one, understand uh, my psychological, mental, and spiritual makeup, and that, that we are these spiritual beings, but we're having human experience, and there is a human nature, and it's not about denying our human nature. It's not about denying uh, our uh, embodiment and incarnation that has limitations. It's not about denying that there's an external world. There's not it's not about denying that there's division, that there's hatred, that there's um, all of these uh, relationships that are out in the world that create so much pain and suffering. It's not about denying that, but it's about a recognition and about recognizing the fact that uh, our outside experiences and our outside perceptions, or I mean, our outside uh, um, experiences, are no more than a reflection of where we're looking from, right? Whether we're looking from a place of fear base, or whether our perception is coming from a place of love. Love meaning oneness and unity and completeness and wholeness, right? And so it's not about what's happening out there. When things happen in the outer world, this is what really helped me. Now I understand that what I was really seeing in the outer world was what I was seeing from. So if I was seeing from a place of separation, from a place of conflict, from a place of resistance, if I were seeing from a place of not enough, not being enough in my own self, if I was, you know, if I was looking at myself from, you know, my nationality, my race, right, my stories, my past, where I was born, all of these different identities that we take on to ourselves, and we realize that it is from that perspective that is from a place of fear. It's from a place of separation. And when I realized that in truth that we're all of the same creation, that we're all of the same nature, that there's only one blood, that's only one breath, right? There's only one being, and that we all actually share that same one self. Here in this community, we call it the I am self, right? In your past, others may describe it as, something different, but the reality is the understanding of this shared being, of the oneness that we share, that we all are an expression or unique expression of this one source called life, and that this life is, is infinite, um, it is timeless, it is formless, right? And that when I come from that place, and we call it that place of love, that then what we see becomes totally transformed. and the way we see, and the place that we see from, actually really begin to cause the world to reflect back to us something different, something more beautiful, something more unifying, something more eternal. And so that's the, but that came as a result of doing some inner work on myself, right? And following the guidance and the path. And, and I realized that my entire life has been like this whole classroom to bring me to the moment when I really discovered, my true self. And in that discovery, it's an acceptance that I am love, right? That I don't have to look for love, but I am that, and that, my role and my purpose and my function is just to be a reflection of that, right? Just like the sunbeam or the sun rays that extend from the sun are just a reflection of the sun. It's not different. It's just a reflection of the sun. It's a temporary reflection. The waves of the ocean that come to the shore, they temporarily come and express themselves, and then they go back into the depth of the ocean. That's how our life is, that we've been brought here to be the expression of that love and form. And though our humanity is temporary, our true nature is divine and it's eternal. And when I rest in that, then that is the place that brings me joy and fulfillment and purpose, and that's the place of love
Hmm.
as I see it.
Yeah, right. The I.
Yes.
It really what you're speaking to really is you're pointing to love is just what remains when the layers of fear and conditioning and the conditional self and separation just begin to fall away. It's this sort of a stripping away, although it's not a stripping away, but yeah, yeah, just letting those the conditional mind just kind of take a back seat to to the truth and love that we truly are, right?
Yeah, it basically, yes. For me, when I experience the true love that is always present and that is everywhere present, I begin to see everything different. I begin to see everyone different. Like, the Course in Miracles said that Jesus saw the face of Christ in everyone and remembered God, right? And so when you have that universal experience that we all are going to have in one lifetime or another, because that is the promise of salvation, and that eventually all of us will wake up to the reality of who we are, right? And see the beauty and the unity and the joy and the love and the absolute um, reality that all there is love, and that fear is something that we learned, programmed, and but it wasn't the truth. And so once you walk in that reality, then fear itself kind of dissolves, right, in your everyday life. It kind of dissolves. And then you, especially here in the time that we find ourselves here on the planet, which I think is the most exciting time to be on the planet, in it, where from one perspective, it appears that things are falling apart, and that things are going in, that fear is winning, that love and unity has been destroyed. That's what it appears from the perspective of fear. But when you are awakened and when you are seeing from the reality of your divine self, you realize that it's not so much that we're in trouble, but that the world is in transition. The world is actually waking up.
It is. It
Same,
absolutely is.
yeah, and that same fear that consumed us to create the seeming mess is the same fear that will be dissolved, right? And in the dissolution of it, it don't look pretty right now. Things don't look very unified on the outside. There seems like a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty. Well, that's because the lie is being dissolved. And we don't get to uh, not experience it, right? But how we experience it is determined by our choice of love or fear, because it can be experienced either way. But we're here in these sessions, and what we're going to be doing in these two sessions is, first of all, establishing um, the fact that, it's not really what's happening outside of us, it's the way we're looking at it, it's our perceptions. And that one is love and one is fear. And then in our second session, we're going to really get into the practicality of embodying love, and learning some practical things that we can do, like um, really becoming aware, right, of of how we think and how we're feeling, how we're perceiving, and take that moment to that moment of awareness to pause and really remind ourselves of who we are, so that we can shift our perception back to reality and return, to that place of love and joy and peace, which we call that infinite I am self, right? And so we're going to get into some practical ways that um, all of us can really become like the Course says, or like Scripture says, we're the light of the world, right? And the world needs us in this moment. Those of us that have been, initiated, those of us who have been enlightened, those of us who have accepted the reality of who we are. And so just both of these sessions are going to be very practical, but we will get into some of the deeper um, theological understanding, right? So that we can really be helpful wherever we find ourselves in the world right now, because the world needs us. The world needs you. It needs me.
The world needs love, right?
The world
And
needs love.
yeah, yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. I think so many people are waking up, even if maybe perhaps they don't have the language for it. I do think there's a collective healing in a waking up to the truth and our true nature.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
it's like you said, it's a beautiful time to be alive, and it's
Time to
doesn't
be
always
alive.
look pretty, but it really is. What a beautiful time.
And the power of choice. We're going to talk somewhat from that standpoint in the last section, because our freedom to choose really is our superpower, and because we're always choosing, whether we're aware of it or not, and we're always experiencing what we're choosing. And where we have chosen fear, we recognize that the experience that we're having, though it may not be something that we even chose consciously. A lot of our choices are subconscious, because remember, if the mind is programmed, if the subconscious is programmed in the belief in fear, then we're going to make unconscious choices that causes us to experience the world and ourselves and others in a fearful, separated, divided way. And but you know, when we realize that that is our freedom to choose, and to choose for love, right? But love has to be known as an option, and that's the reason we have these sessions and these teachings, is to make people aware that love is everywhere present, and that it's just a matter of our choosing. And so we're really going to talk about the power of choosing, because a lot of people really are struggling with blaming their experience of life or their experiences in life based on what's happening outside of them, where in reality is we only experience our own choices. We can't change a lot of things that happen outside of us, but we can change the way we look at it. And when we change the way we look at it, the thing that we're looking at will change.
Hmm. Everything changes when we
Everything.
when our perception shifts
Right.
and we're looking through that lens of love. Yeah, you're right. It's very powerful. It's the point of power, really, that
Yes.
the choosing. Well, I think that that's a beautiful place to end. I really appreciate this conversation, Oliver. This has been great. Thank you for this.
Well, thank you, Jody, and I look forward to the June 22nd and June 29th.
Yes.
I think
Yep.
3 to 4:30 we'll be having the two sessions, and we invite any of you, any and everyone to, if this subject resonates with you, love or fear, the choice is yours. If fear is something that you've struggled with, if love is something that seemed to evade you or that you seem to vacillate with, I think that these sessions will be really helpful to anyone that will come and join in those sessions.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
inviting you to come be with us for those two sessions.
Yes. And it starts June 22nd, as he mentioned. So truly, if today's conversation resonated with you, I highly encourage you to join us. You'll find the details and the registration information in the show notes in the link. So, yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, Oliver. And until next time, remember that the light of what you are is already free, it's already whole, and it's already right here. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful we could share this space together. Before you go, take a moment to notice one simple practice you can carry with you into the rest of your day. And if this podcast resonates with you, be sure to subscribe to the Awareness Podcast on your favorite app. Find us on the Center for Awakening YouTube channel, or stay updated at centerfораwakening.org/podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Center for Awakening, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting the journey of awakening to our true nature and the natural peace and happiness that are always here. You can explore courses, events, and many more resources at centerfораwakening.org.